after Superman came out, we saw, and even before Superman came out, we saw this rush of what felt like very AstroTurf support for the franchise, what seemed like a lot of creators who got invited to the premiere that were just telling you it was the best thing in the world. Then it came out and the spin was immediately in. Even though this is a movie that did not make its money back in theaters, it was spun as a massive, global, sweeping phenomenon. It's a huge smash hit, when in reality, it fell about $40 million short of breaking even when you use the conservative estimates that they put out there for the budgets, which we've already seen are lies. Well, now, after Superman, rather mediocre, and now the finale for Peacemaker, seems like some people are already sick and fucking tired of James Gunn. And we talked about the finale last week a little bit after it came out, because I think people are right to be upset. It's the lowest rated episode of Peacemaker. A lot of people are bitching about it for a variety of reasons, but ultimately, this season felt like it didn't need to exist. This season of Peacemaker felt like the only reason it exists is to give James Gunn's wife more screen time in the DC universe and make sure she stays relevant in the DC universe. Honestly, it's what it felt like. And for James Gunn to have an excuse to watch his wife get fucked by every single male character while he watched. And that might be reflective of his real life, if I had to guess, not sure. But now we're starting to hear that maybe things at Warner Brothers, especially with this potential sale, you've got Paramount circling in this potential effort to buy Warner Brothers, and some reports that are saying if that happens, James Gunn might be out as head of DC. And certainly that wouldn't just be because, well, Superman was a little bit of a disappointment, Peacemaker sucked. That might be because of their plans in general. Somebody else comes in, might not want the same person in charge. Who knows? But even a lot of the people that are there are saying James Gunn, like, he only wants to do James Gunn things. And that's one of the reasons that so many of their projects have been either delayed or put on the back burner or not happen, because he wants it all to feel like James Gunn. And unfortunately, that's all James Gunn fucking does.
Yeah,
like, this is what he said about Supergirl. Supergirl especially is a space adventure. It's like Guardians. Our movie news. Everything he's made has been like Guardians. And yeah, and some people are a little sick of it. Let's listen to James Gunn really quick about what he says about Peacemaker Season 2 finale.
Hi, Latino America. Yes, that was the ending. No, I'm not sorry. Yes, it's streaming. HBO Max. No, you can't DM me about it. Okay, fine. 1 DM.
Just making a joke about the ending that everybody hated.
Yeah, and he's not sorry about it, Jay. He's not sorry about it. And we saw some of the backlash to this thing on Friday when we went through all of this. But even people who have been like sucking the cock of James Gunn, even they are pushing back against some of this stuff. Superman was not the success they tried to make it seem like. Peacemaker has been a fucking disaster. Doesn't show up anywhere in the streaming ratings. Nobody's fucking watching it. And James Gunn sold it as the most important thing for the DC universe forward. And now, after just a few entries, a handful of entries in the DC universe, people are already starting to complain about James Gunn and thinking maybe he's not the right guy for the job after all. People speculating whether he could be gone. Rumored that he would be gone if Paramount does buy Warner Brothers. It's not a good start to their universe.
What a disaster. Could you imagine he knocks out like 2 or 3 films and then they're just like, yeah, we're going to start over again in DC. We're going to start over again. And, why don't they get that comic book artist? Maybe he could run his Batman story, that's hitting the Twitter. And but yeah, like, what a disaster that's gonna be. I don't know do you remember how big his contract was that he got for like how many movies and how many years he was supposed to like it basically was like Marvel. He's supposed to do like the 10-year complete story type thing, like phase 1 through 3 kind of thing.
Yeah, but he did not get a 10-year contract. I believe his contract would be up in 2026 or 2027, somewhere around there.
That's what I was thinking.
Look, if Warner Brothers doesn't sell or whatever, I do think that they see what Peacemaker or what Supergirl does, and they go forward with Man of Tomorrow. That would be coming out in 2027. And then I think that they would be hesitant before they see what kind of returns Man of Tomorrow gets. I think they would be hesitant to give him a bunch more leeway. I think they would give it up to them to really make a decision about what the future should hold for James Gunn. If, unless there is a sale of Warner Brothers and somebody comes in and really wants to fucking turn everything over. You know what I mean?
Yeah. What a nightmare, man. They just can't seem to get that thing straight over there. Yeah, it's Zack Snyder. Now, the only thing that seems to be working is the Batman. We'll seem to enjoy that. The second one will be out eventually.
Yeah, but it's going to be like 5 years since the first one before we see the second one.
But I mean, Penguin was, received extremely well.
The Batman is the only DC movie since Joker came out in 2019, Jay. Right? Because that obviously made $1 billion. That made money. Didn't make a ton of money for the studio, but it did make a lot of money. Other than that, The Batman is the only other movie that's been profitable in theaters for them.
That's crazy.
Everything else that's come out, Wonder Woman 1984, The Suicide Squad, Harley Quinn, Birds of Prey, and the Fantabulous Emancipation of whatever the fuck, Shazam 2, Aquaman 2, Blue Beetle, The Flash, like all of these things, none of them made money. Black Adam, all of them lost money. Joker 2, and even Superman, as we revealed, did not make money in the theaters. Now, will it probably break even after video on demand sales and all the ridiculous things that they try to counter? Probably, unless they're lying to us about the budget like they were with The Flash, in which case, no, it won't even make money post theatrical either. The Batman's the only thing. Now, did it go crazy to do bonkers? No, it made $770 million worldwide or something like that on a $200 million budget. But The Penguin was received incredibly well on streaming, both from the audiences and critically. And The Batman 2, I don't know. I mean, right now, I would think The Batman 2 does better than Superman.
But how much superhero fatigue is involved in all this, do you think? It's just, I know we say it's like bad story fatigue, probably a big one. People don't trust the studios anymore. They don't want to give their money to go to the movies. It's not cheap, especially if it's just a mediocre film, but it's just like people just don't seem to care at all. They're not watching Peacemaker. They're not going to the movies. They just don't seem to care about superhero films.
I think that there's
in general,
but there's been so many of them that I think it needs to feel like an event for people to get really hyped to go to it. Right?
Got it.
Like it needs to feel like an event. And so when you have Spider-Man No Way Home, when you have Deadpool and Wolverine, those did feel like events. I think they hope they can recreate that with the Avengers movies coming out, but it's such a, there hasn't been a ton of build up to this, and it's going to include so many characters that people don't give a fuck about. Maybe those characters, the couple of characters people still do give a fuck about or want to see back, maybe that will bring people there.
I don't think so. I think Avengers Doomsday is going to crash hard. Like, especially if they also have to pay the Trump tariff, if that's like part of the equation where they have to make money. Whatever that looks like.
That's a whole different story. Yeah. Like if that factors in, then that movie's fucked regardless. If that Trump tariff goes into effect, which I don't know how it's going to happen, but if that Trump tariff were to go into effect, then this would be a movie that needs to make fucking like $2.5 billion to break. Yeah, I don't think that's happening.
Easy.
But no, even to assume, let's just assume it doesn't, and let's just assume kind of all things normal. We'll see when it gets a little bit closer. It wouldn't shock me if Avengers Doomsday made $1 billion. Honestly, it wouldn't shock me if it makes $1 billion with everything that's going on. However, I genuinely think this movie might cost $600 million to make.
That I agree with. It's going to cost a lot of money. I just don't think anybody cares. And again, they're hyping this whole thing where if you go see the Avatar movie, you could see the first preview for Doomsday. At least that's what the reports were. So it's like they're trying to, I think they're doing anything in their power to get people back into the theater. Avatar doesn't really do well in the States anyway. That's more of an overseas type hit. So I don't know, man. Like this just like No interest. Yeah, Fantastic Four and all. It just was like, okay, here we go. Wasn't anything anybody got excited for. So I don't see any interest of people care that Robert Downey Jr. is going to be back as Doctor Doom.
And that's kind of why I think $1 billion is reasonable for it, but I don't think that's impressive, right? Like that would mean that since Endgame or Infinity War or whatever, because I mean those made a fuck ton of money, obviously. You've lost about half your fucking audience. I think that's semi-reasonable. I think it's reasonable to say that twice as many people will go see Avengers Doomsday with the return of Robert Downey Jr. plus all these other different fucking characters than went to see Fantastic Four. I think that's a reasonable thing to say.
I agree.
So I do think that I don't think $1 billion is a crazy thing to imagine that it hits. We just saw Deadpool and Wolverine make 1.5, right? So I think that the idea that it hits $1 billion is not crazy or insane or whatever, but I also don't think that that means it'll be successful. I think that this movie is going to cost so fucking much to make, that I don't know how they're going to make any money back.
Well, I think their hopes is if they'll spend the money, right, and they'll do the whole thing in hopes that people will get excited for the MCU stuff moving forward. That this will be the ultimate trigger for people to be like, okay, I'm interested now. You got me in. I'm involved. I want to see what's going on. We got Secret Wars coming up. We got other things as well. So it's like they're banking on the fact that this will pull people back into the theater, back into whatever they're trying to make with the MCU. But I just like, that's a terrible business model, honestly. And I don't think it's going to work in their favor. And then, like you said last week, that to me is when, because we hear all these little hints of the Marvel DC crossover, that to me is when that type of stuff will start to see a little bit more traction.
Like 5 or 6 years from now, I would not be surprised.
Nothing else to give. It's like nobody cares anymore. We've already brought back the old, we're going to bring back Chris Evans, everyone. We're going to give you everybody you want. Come on back to the theater. But it's like,
the fact
who cares? The
fact that James Gunn wanted Deadpool to appear in the season finale of Peacemaker is wild.
I mean, anything at this point to get people to watch, right? Except for a fun story that people can enjoy.
That would have actually been a big cameo that he promised people, but
that is true. But I mean, listen, we're talking about the same guy that promised so much that Superman won't go to streaming quickly. Don't worry. Like, he promised so much that it's just right after the next. It's just, yeah, there's nothing. You can't believe anything that he says.
He was literally telling fans on Threads, like,
yeah,
2 weeks after Superman was in theaters, someone's like, please tell me this won't be on streaming until long after Peacemaker is out. I really want this thing to have a long theatrical run. And he says, oh, it won't be out on streaming until a long time after Peacemaker. And like by the time Peacemaker episode 3 was out, Superman dropped on HBO Max.
Correct.
Like the dude is a fucking lying scumbag who likes to watch his wife get fucked by other men. That's who James Gunn is.
That ought to tell you all you need to know. And yet they put him in charge of resurrecting DC.
I don't know, man.
They were better off just sticking with Snyder, letting him finish his whole thing,